What's going on there, guys? Good evening. It's your Earthmaster here on this Wednesday night, September 14th, 2022. It is about 8:35 p.m. California time here along the West Coast. Latest activity showing up there on the Earthquake 3D globe. 2.5 somewhere over here. Was just up there on the green flag, but at 1.6 now up into the Alaska region, the latest earthquake there on the globe. Let's go ahead and look at the latest activity here across the flat scale model of the Earth. We are still seeing some movement out here around the Vanuatu area. This whole area, as you know, have been pretty darn active over the last 3 or 4 days or so, with some movement this morning as well in the Vanuatu area with a 7.0. That one coming in earlier this morning time frame. And we have seen some activity kind of ramp up to the north here of this area, just up a couple hundred miles, maybe 600 miles or so on this scale. Due northwest, about a 4.5. Did have a 4.7 kicking up down here in the Kermadec Trench, and then the recent quake here, 5.1. So a little bit of bouncing back and forth here in this plate boundary, which kind of makes sense, right? This isn't just a flat line, simple type of area as far as plate dynamics go. This is a very complex system. A lot of deep activity does hit here. It's almost like this is where it all starts. This is where it all begins as far as the cycle of earthquake activity goes, it seems. So a lot of bouncing back and forth in between this region. And that's something to watch pretty closely considering all the large-scale activity we've seen over the last week. Let's go ahead and look at the last 7 days of activity here. And we're kind of filling in those gaps, so to speak, of quiet zones. One area that really hasn't been hit, I think you can see up here around the Solomon Islands. Yes, they have had some fours, but the Solomon Sea here, this is a pretty complex system here as well. So I believe this is a trench subduction zone area, followed up by quite a few other dynamics here in the earthquake world. Pretty crazy area as far as stress goes. And that area around this region of Solomon Islands could be hit next with some larger movement. We'll have to watch that pretty closely. Just going by what I've seen over the last week here, it's all been kind of unzipping, so to speak, here in this area. And also up here along the western edge of the Philippine plate. Not so much here on the eastern edge around the Mariana Trench northward into the Izu Trench south of Japan there. That could be another area to watch pretty closely there for some subsequent large-scale movement. It's just been a very active week. All right, what do we got here along the west coast? Earthquake activity? Yes, still continuing. We're not seeing any major swarms, any large-scale activity currently kicking off here. We did see movement up here around the Clear Lake area, Clear Lake Volcanic Field. Of course, that is Calpine Hydrothermal Operations. Go check it out. Do a quick Google search on them, and you'll see what's going on up there. No more aftershocks here along the area of the Santa Rosa earthquake activity from last night. The Rogers Creek Fault looks pretty quiet now. This is the all magnitudes map, so we're not seeing too much in terms of aftershock activity, so that's a little concerning as well. Most of the time when we see, we've seen a couple fours yesterday, right? I think that's a little sign that something may still be brewing out here. There was a study back in 2003, a pretty good chance of this fault system here seeing a 7.1 magnitude earthquake. It does run through Santa Rosa and portions of the North Bay area. So yeah, nothing coming in right now as far as the magnitudes go. Stand by for just a second here. Yeah, and those were a 4.4 and a 4.3 in that area as far as the earthquakes there from yesterday. Not a whole lot of aftershock activity, so we'll definitely keep an eye on it. All right, backing out of here. The Bay Area, except for this one outside of Sonoma, 2.7. That kind of looks like it's off of the West Napa Fault and in between the Rogers Creek Fault. That's about it. Nothing showing up here on the map. Down south along the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault, the creeping zone, the creeper zone, I like to call it. is creeping along today with a couple ones, and that's about it. No major large-scale activity kicking up there. Long Valley Supervolcano in the Mina area over here in Nevada. Not a whole lot going on, just some small microquakes over the last 24 hours. Ridgecrest area calming down. And Southern California, very, very spotty. And it's kind of been like this all day. And, man, with the amount of large-scale activity we've seen here over along the Western Pacific, Southwestern Pacific, and adjacent plates further west, I can kind of see why California is kind of tapering off a little bit. Not a whole lot going on right now in the Southern California area. Up through Utah into Yellowstone, a couple small microquakes. Up in the Pacific Northwest, about the same as well. Similar to what we seen last night, a couple small quakes throughout the area. No unusual activity to report along the West Coast. Still seeing some movement out here around Pecos, Texas, kind of in a linear fashion out here. Latest one looks like a 2.3. Let's see exactly what's out there off of, what is that, Interstate 20? Just outside of Pecos. I can't recall if I've ever been out there. I think I have, but I'm not a big fan of this area of Texas. Too much desert. I'm not a big desert fan. Let's go over here to the satellite. I'm kind of curious to see what's around this recent one. Well, yeah, I think we all know what's out there. That is not a spiderweb complex. Well, it could be a spiderweb complex of oil rigs, oil pumping operations out there, injection ponds. Look at those ponds right there. It's not a tunnel into the earth. That's a beautiful wastewater pond. It gets injected down there into the surface. This 2.3 kicking up very, very close to an older pumping operation within feet. All right, backing out of here, out of the oil fields. A little activity up in Oklahoma as well, kicking up here outside of Norman. Off 39, a little bit of activity. Let me see what we got out here. We got some oil pumping operations out here as well. In the vegetated areas with trees and whatnot, it's kind of hard to spot them, but I do see some. And they normally have these little gravel dirt roads leading out to a square type of complex. Looks like there may be a couple. This is some type of farm or something out there. But they're hard to spot. You know, sometimes they're hard to spot in this type of environment. A lot of times they are listed up on the map. West Washington oil field. All right, backing out of here. This movement around the New Madrid zone, some older activity from this morning time frame. So eastern coast, not a whole lot going on at all. We haven't seen any type of swarming, any type of earthquake activity kicking up in South Carolina or any areas for that matter along the eastern portion of the states in a couple days, more like a week or so. Puerto Rico Trench, that activity is from this morning. That was kicking up pretty good up here around the Puerto Rico Trench area. Some upper threes in the mix as well. That has since died off pretty nicely. Off the coast here of the Nicaragua area, Honduras, El Salvador. Seen some activity here earlier this afternoon, and also late last night as well. Some of these earthquakes down into the Middle America Trench regions. 4.2 in Mexico as well. South America, awfully quiet. That's one area that hasn't really seen a tremendous amount of earthquake activity compared to the major push over here, right? That's a lot of push as far as the dynamics go. But it kind of seems like, if you look at it, it almost looks like it's stopped right here. I know we got some pressure here around the India area, working its way up against the Himalaya Mountains, northern end of the Java Trench. The plate dynamics here are pretty complex. There is a subduction zone here, the Java Trench, and you get the northeastward pressure movement here into this area, along with the westward pressure movement here. From the Pacific Plate and the this whole area right here. But we've come to a stop, so to speak, right here. So I'm not for sure if something's going to break loose up here throughout maybe India area or possibly the Myanmar area. But look at that. I mean, it's large-scale activity working its way up, building its way up here. We normally follow a trail of activity here, but it's come to a stop right here. Bangkok, maybe? Thailand area? Got to watch these areas pretty closely considering all this movement for that next quake. Alaska, seeing a little bit of activity up there tonight outside of Anchorage, it looks like. Here, a couple earthquakes there in the microquake department. No major earthquake activity to report around the Alaska area. Just a couple threes up there, it looks like. I cannot find the Trident Volcano GPS systems. Either that or maybe they don't have any. I'm still kind of looking into it. I did a quick search earlier and I could not find it. I can find seismograph stations of the Trident Volcano where they've had swarms of earthquakes here over the last month or so. This is the Trident Volcano area. They've had quite a bit of swarming, but that has since kind of died down. If you look at the seismicity map here over the last month or so, we had that swarming kick up here around the 23rd of August and ramping up again early September, but it has since died down. Here is the depths of the depth of these earthquakes here. Some of them started off pretty deep. They're about 30 kilometers and then worked their way up to the surface. That's very typical of magma movement. But things have kind of come to a stop right now. But unfortunately, I can't find the GPS stations here. And I'm not seeing it at all on any of the normal, typical GPS sites that I use. But I will continue to look around, see if I can find those. Southeastern edge, Puerto Rico, southeast flank looking pretty well, I can't say super active. Got 13 earthquakes out here. That's probably half of normal movement. One earthquake here, 2.1 outside of Pahala, the most recent quake there on the map. We do have some activity out around the Loihi Seamount, a 3.2, and also a 1.7, but no major swarms to report at all. Just a very typical day, it looks like, out there on the Big Island. One earthquake out here in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a 4.6. That one kicking off, looks like earlier this afternoon time frame. Give a quick glance here of Yellowstone National Park, and well, there's not a whole lot going on at all. There's the 7-pointer from this morning, not in Yellowstone, but over there in the Vanuatu area, kicking off there, sending some surface waves there across the planet. As far as general earthquake activity goes here at Yellowstone, though, but not a whole lot. I don't see any swarms, no microquake activity at all to report. Maybe a little bit here around Norris Junction, but that's some very small quake activity. The Tremor map tonight along the Cascadia, consisting of 54 epicenters, and kind of spread out here from the northern end down to the central, down to the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, which kind of sits within that fashion right there. And yeah, 54 epicenters, definitely not that big of a deal. A little downgrade from past couple nights. What else we got? Space weather. We'll check this out here real quick. And I think I'm going to call it an early night. Pretty tired. These guys have elevated. Wow, we got a KP index here kicking up a little bit. These guys have added on the 3-day geomagnetic forecast here. Some yellows across the board, indicating some moderate possible activity kicking up here on the Aurora forecast. Currently KP index up there around the 4 range. Looks like a solar wind enhancement caused by a possible weak shock passage is stirring up geomagnetic activity at higher latitudes. Lucky folks. Sky watchers around the polar zone should be alert for a visible aurora. Pretty awesome. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see that a little bit elevated there. And I'm thinking it could be maybe from that coronal hole that's been facing us. I'm not for sure what's going on there. There we go. And it is kind of now, this is a coronal hole right here, this darker region on the sun. Sunspots there in the brighter areas. There is the old sunspot region, 3088, newly assigned number now. But the coronal hole's kind of been facing us here for a couple days. It is turning away from us, so maybe we're getting a little bit of that activity kicking up here from that region. far as specific sunspot activity goes. This guy, 30, I think that's 3098, right? The big one. Now, kind of departing us, heading off into the west, northwestern limb over there. Going to be disappearing here pretty soon. 3088 here, which is now 3102, looks like it's starting to grow again. As far as the magnetic field goes, we're getting a little bit of growth here, and a little bit of complex magnetic field kind of kicking up in that area. So we'll see if that wants to be a star once again, so to speak, for producing flares. These guys right now have 3098 as the most likely suspect of producing any moderate type of flaring. Nothing major. It looks like they do have a 5% chance for next flare, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, a little bit of activity maybe for the folks up there in the higher latitudes. We did see some density increases here on the protons there, and also a little enhancement on the solar wind speed, kicking up into the looks like about 340 range, but that's still pretty minimal. Very minimal. But either way, a little bit of a glancing blow from somewhere, creating this little bit of KP index there, and some potential for some storming up there, the roars up there at the higher latitudes. Alrighty guys, just a quick announcement and reminder for the members out here. I know we had a couple members join up, also a couple members dropping out, and that's okay. There's definitely no commitment to be a member. If you just want to join here for a month and then drop off, you're more than welcome to. But for the members that are continuing to stick by and be a part of this channel, tomorrow is our drawing for the members only. We will be holding that probably sometime tomorrow afternoon. Not for sure exact time, but we will be doing it live. And we'll make it live for the whole channel, that way you guys can see how the process goes. We enter everyone that is a member here on the channel, not subscriber, but a member. It doesn't matter if you've been a member 3 months, a month, 1 day. You're automatically entered into the drawing each month. We hold a monthly drawing. And last couple months we gave away a $50 Visa gift card. Last month was a $40 Amazon gift card. And this month we're giving away some free Earthmaster merchandise. Your choice. Whatever you like. Color, design, shirt, sweater, socks. Don't have hats yet, unfortunately. I'm trying to work on that. But that'll be in the mix here probably pretty soon, hopefully. But yeah, so members are entered into the drawing tomorrow. If you want a chance, got to get in today somehow, because we will be picking out those members tomorrow right before the drawing. So make sure you get signed up for a member here on this channel to be entered into that drawing to win some free Earthmaster merchandise. Alrighty guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there. And again, watch those little zones I was talking about there. The little areas that we've been watching some quiet activity. And we'll see how this kind of plays out tonight. Take care, folks. We'll catch you guys a little bit later on. Peace out, everyone.